everyone. Welcome to today's new grantee orientation webinar for Title V Competitive Sexual Risk Avoidance Education Programs. My name is Megan Yarber, and I'll be the moderator for today's webinar. I would like to start out by introducing our first speaker today with some opening remarks, Vernee Martin.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the Family and Youth Services Bureau Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program. My name is Vernee Martin. I am one of the program managers for the Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program. Unfortunately, Commissioner Darling will not be able to join us today due to her heavy travel schedule. However, on behalf of the Commissioner, I'd like to thank all of you for your hard work and diligence in responding to the Title V Competitive Sexual Risk Avoidance Education Funding Opportunity Announcement, and commend you on submitting such thorough and well-developed applications. And it goes without saying, congratulations, not only on your successful applications, but in your commitment to fostering the growth and success of at-risk youth in your communities. I'm pleased to say that FYSB awarded a total of $10 million in competitive S-RAE grants to 28 organizations that educate youth on sexual risk avoidance, including 17 first-time grantees. We can't wait to see and help foster your success in implementing education exclusively on sexual risk avoidance that teaches youth participants to voluntarily refrain from non-marital sexual activity. Of course, you're already familiar with the APP program, as evidenced by those applications. But today's orientation will provide an opportunity to look closely at the inner workings of the legislation, the processes and practices of properly managing your grant, and the resources available to help you do so. There will be a lot of information provided in this webinar today, so be sure you're comfortable, engaged, and writing down your questions along the way. Please use the chat box to ask questions during the question and answer period at the end of the presentation. We highly encourage you to conduct continuous quality improvement and local evaluations that will further our understanding of the anticipated outcomes and impact of your projects. Once again, on behalf of the Commissioner, I'm very happy to welcome you to the APP program. And remember, FYSB is here to provide you the assistance, guidance, resources, and support you need to be successful in all aspects of your programs. Congratulations, good luck, and thank you for your continued commitment to our youth. We'll begin with an overview of today's agenda from Letitia Winston.
Thank you, Vernee. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Letitia Winston, Project Officer with APP, and I also serve as the Program Lead for the Title V C-SRAE program. Again, welcome to the Title V Competitive Sexual Risk Avoidance Education Program, New Grantee Orientation. Today's webinar will provide critical information to support your successful implementation of C-SRAE projects across the nation, and will provide an overview of the Family and Youth Services Bureau and the Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program, the Title V Competitive Sexual Risk Avoidance Education Program purpose and requirements. We'll discuss performance measures and evaluations, technical assistance, websites, and other resources that are available to you. We'll have the Office of Grants Management discuss their roles and responsibilities, and then we'll have an opportunity for questions and answers. Let's now get started with some introductions to who we are. The Family and Youth Services Bureau, or FYSB, is located within the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Administration on Children, Youth, and Families. The Bureau is comprised of two divisions, the Division of Adolescent Development and Support and Family Violence Prevention and Services Division. The SRAE program is administered by FYSB's Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program. The next few slides, we will introduce you to the APP program office. and provide additional information about the program office's role and responsibilities. The FYSB Leadership and Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program staff include Debbie Powell, who's the FYSB Deputy Associate Commissioner, Risa Matthews, the Director of the Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program, and the Program Managers, Labrita White and Brene Martin. Your project officers are Latonia Koryak, Jessica Johnson, Tanya Matthews, Patrice Moss, Alex Washington, myself, and Christine Zakor. We are happy to also have the invaluable assistance of Tarshika Thompson as our Executive Assistant and Owen Burns, who serves as the Communications Manager. Project officers are the primary contacts for any programmatic matters or updates. Below are examples of their duties and when you should contact your project officer. Technical assistance may be provided in a number of different formats and platforms, including emails, webinars, conference calls, virtual meetings, and site visits. SRAE programs implement evidence-based approaches that align with the needs and desired outcomes for youth and teach the benefits associated with self-regulation, success sequencing for poverty prevention, healthy relationships, goal setting, and resisting sexual coercion, dating violence, and other youth risk behaviors such as underage drinking or illicit drug use without normalizing teen sexual activity. The APP program supports over 250 grantees, of which 174 are SRAE grantees, funded at a total of $91.9 million. Of this amount, 34 grantees are funded by the Title V Competitive Sexual Risk Avoidance Education Awards. And we want to congratulate you again on being selected as one of our grantees. Of those 34 grantees, 28 are new awards and 6 of them are continuation. Grantee site visits and monitoring are essential to the responsibilities of project officers. Your project officer will discuss the scheduling of site visits with you in the near future, and the objectives of those visits are to ensure compliance with terms and conditions of the grant and authorizing legislation, and to discuss program implementation and observe a program activity, and to provide some technical assistance in areas that are related to the program. The program office is currently working in partnership with the following contractors to conduct training and technical assistance, the SRA National Evaluation, performance measurement, and medical accuracy review. You will hear more from these presenters later in today's presentation. Now we will review the purpose and the scope of the C-SRAE program. The Title V C-SRAE program is authorized and funded by Section 510 of the Social Security Act and amended by Section 50502 of the Bipartisan Budget Act of 2018, which was extended by Section 3821 of the CARES Act 2020. Title V C-SRAE funds local organizations and entities within states that did not apply for the Title V state SRAE funds to implement education exclusively on sexual risk avoidance that teaches participants to voluntarily refrain from sexual activity. Organizations and entities in the list above were eligible for the FY 2020 funding. The goal of the C-SRAE program is to provide messages to youth that normalizes the optimal health behavior of avoiding non-marital sexual activity. The objectives of the C-SRAE program are to implement curricula that includes medically accurate information referenced in peer-reviewed publications by educational, scientific, governmental, or health organizations, to select sexual risk avoidance curricula and/or strategies with an evidence-based approach to integrate research findings with practical implementation that aligns with the needs and desired outcomes of the targeted audience of youth, to teach risk avoidance skills through methods that do not normalize teen sexual activity, and to target youth ages 10 through 19. All C-SRAE programs must meet the following requirements: teach medically accurate, culturally and age-appropriate information, use evidence-based interventions, use a positive youth development framework, target the appropriate population, provide appropriate referrals to healthcare and other services, conduct research and evaluation, participate in a national evaluation, and collect and report performance measures. Title V C-SRAE programs must provide information that is medically accurate and complete. Medical information must be verified or supported by the weight of research. Program materials such as checks, supplements, workbooks, videos, flyers, handouts, posters, and flashcards should be reviewed in comparison to current medical statements of fact in accordance with the most up-to-date scientifically supported information. All programs must be age-appropriate, which means that the topics, messages, and teaching methods implemented by the project must be consistent with the developmental and social maturity of the program participants. C-SRAE programs must, at a minimum, implement evidence-based programming. Selected interventions must be promising practices or have evidence of effectiveness with the target populations and adhere to the following requirements. Interventions must be medically accurate and complete, age-appropriate with regard to developmental stage and intended use audience, and culturally appropriate, recognizing the experiences of youth from diverse communities, backgrounds, and experiences. All programs are required to follow the A through F topics as outlined in the legislation. Programs must teach a holistic individual and societal benefit associated with personal responsibility, self-regulation, goal setting, healthy decision-making, and a focus on the future. The advantage of refraining from non-marital sexual activity in order to improve the future prospects and physical and emotional health of youth. The increased likelihood of avoiding poverty when youth attain self-sufficiency and emotional maturity before engaging in sexual activity. The foundational components of healthy relationships and their impact on the formation of healthy marriages and safe and stable families. How other youth risk behaviors such as drug and alcohol usage increase the risk for teen sex. And finally, how to resist and avoid and receive help regarding sexual coercion and dating violence, recognizing that even with consent, teen sex remains a youth risk behavior. C-SRAE programs must include positive youth development as a part of any risk avoidance strategy to help participants build healthy life skills and protective factors that mitigate the impact of past and future negative factors, empower participants to make healthy decisions, provide tools and resources to prevent pregnancy and STIs, and to prevent youth engagement and other risky behaviors. SRAE curriculum requirements are that they must be age-appropriate with regard to the developmental stage of the intended audience, culturally appropriate and linguistically appropriate. They should have the exclusive purpose of teaching sexual risk avoidance and the benefits associated with self-regulation. The interventions, materials, and curriculum must not promote or encourage sexual activity outside of marriage. And curricula and interventions and activities can provide information on contraception that does not include demonstrations and or simulations of contraceptive devices. All SRAE programs are to be implemented with fidelity. They must implement strategies to ensure that programs are implemented without compromising the core elements of the curriculum that have been identified as essential for achieving program effectiveness. All Title V C-SRAE programs may only provide education to youth on sexual risk avoidance. Funds may not be used to provide separate services such as healthcare, educational, career development, or counseling services. As an APP grantee, performance progress reports are required to be submitted semi-annually via Grant Solutions. You will submit your PPRs on April 30th and October 31 to cover the appropriate reporting time periods that are listed here. More information can be provided by your project officer and is also available in the guidance that was issued to you at the start of the grant period. The PPR provides information around the following essential performance indicators: major activities, challenges, significant findings and observations, organizational issues, TA and training updates, as well as activities planned for the next reporting period. Grantees are also expected to adhere to the following post-award activities. They must initiate full program functioning within 90 days of the award. They must train facilitators and educators in the program model or elements of the program model by professionals who can provide follow-up technical assistance to facilitators. Programs must register and support attendance at least two staff persons to the 3-day Adolescent Pregnancy Prevention Program Grantee Conference to be held in person or virtually in May of 2021, and attendance at 2 topical training sessions offered each year by the program office. Grantees must also participate in cluster calls that will be scheduled and provided later. Grantees must also collect and report on the Office of Management and Budget approved federal FYSB performance measures, submit PPR and other required reports during the 24-month period, 2 12-month budget periods, and include a non-competing continuation application. They must have subrecipient agreements in place within 30 days of the grant award, and policies that ensure compliance with civil rights laws, including federal laws protecting religious freedom. Grantees must also have a plan to monitor subrecipient claims, address them seriously, and document the corrective actions. The next component of today's webinar will cover C-SRAE performance measures and evaluation. Olivia Ashley from Public Strategies will begin with discussing performance measures.
Thank you, Letitia. Hello, everyone. I'm Olivia Ashley from Public Strategies. Public Strategies and our subcontractor Mathematica are supporting the administration for children and families with SRAE performance measures data collection, submission, analysis, and reporting. This role includes providing training and technical assistance to grantees on collecting and submitting performance measures data. Today, I'll briefly explain the purpose of performance measures, benefits of performance measures data for you as grantees, and how performance measures are different from local impact evaluation. Next, I'll provide some brief information about the types of performance measures grantees will need to collect and report, as well as data collection and submission timelines. Finally, I'll provide some information about upcoming webinars and technical assistance events where grantees can get detailed information about performance measures collection and reporting requirements. The collection of performance measures is a requirement of the SRAE grant award and was specified in the federal funding opportunity announcements for SRAE. However, performance measures are much more than a federal requirement. They're an important and essential learning tool that will help assess progress towards the program objectives for SRAE and compare progress from year to year. Regular collection and reporting of performance measures will allow FYSB to provide timely feedback to grantees for ongoing program improvement. FYSB also uses performance measures for reporting and responding to inquiries from stakeholders internal and external to the federal government. But performance measures also benefit SRAE grantees and local stakeholders directly. Performance measures can arm you as grantees with data you can share with funders and other stakeholders. You can use performance measures data to inform policymakers, partners, the media, research groups, or other interested parties about your program activity. Performance measures can also be used as a foundation for program improvement. Grantees can use performance measures data to monitor program providers to assess, for example, whether programs are reaching your target population and whether the participants consider your programming to be helpful. You can also use the data to identify training and technical assistance needs. Finally, performance measures provide data that can assist you in advocating for continued and additional funding and in sustainability planning. This table highlights some differences between performance management and local impact evaluation. Performance management measures on the left inputs, which are the resources that make your program possible, such as funding, staffing, training, observations, curricula, and other activities provided to you. Performance management also measures outputs, which are the direct, tangible results of program activities, such as the number and type of youth served, the number of hours of programming delivered, the number of youth who attended programming sessions or activities, and the settings in which program content is delivered. Finally, performance management measures outcomes, which are the status of participants after services, such as participants' perceptions of the program's influence on their attitudes and behaviors. In contrast, on the right-hand side, local impact evaluation measures the difference in status of participants after services from status among a comparison group who did not receive services. And this contrast between a comparison group and participants receiving SRAE programming can establish a causal relationship between the program and the program impact. There are three categories of SRAE performance measures. Program attendance, reach, and dosage measure the delivery or implementation of the SRAE program and will be described using data on the numbers of youth served, their attendance and retention, and how many sessions youth receive. The second category measures program structure, cost, and support for implementation. This includes the program curricula, other activities that might be provided, settings in which they're provided, grantee organization and subawardee funding and staffing, and program providers' perceptions of implementation challenges and technical assistance needs. Participant measures include participant characteristics, behaviors, perceptions of program effects, and program experiences. This information is collected through anonymous surveys administered to youth participants at program entry and exit. There are two versions of each anonymous entry and exit survey, a middle school version and a high school and older version, because select questions about sexual behavior will only be collected from high school youth in grades 9 and above. The slide shows some of the school grade level response categories for the middle school entry and exit surveys and for the high school and older entry and exit surveys. However, the grade level response categories are merely guidelines for middle school and high school grades, since which grades constitute middle and high school vary across communities. Grantees will administer whichever survey best reflects the population they serve. Grantees will submit measures of attendance, reach, and dosage, and survey-based participant-level performance measures biannually, each winter and summer, and will include 6 months of data submission in each submission. Measures of structure, cost, and support will be submitted annually each summer, and these measures will cover a full federal grant year. For grantees delivering programming in 2020, measures of attendance, reach, and dosage will first be reported by new grantees in mid-January and February 2021. Grantees will begin administering the participant entry and exit surveys as soon as possible and will submit those measures mid-January and February 2021 if possible. Measures of structure, cost, and support for implementation will first be reported by new grantees in mid-July and August 2021. We have several TA events planned. On November 19th, we will conduct a webinar for new SRAE grantees, staff, and evaluators to provide a detailed introduction to the SRAE performance measures. Grantees will receive information about how to register for this webinar soon. On December 3rd, we will conduct a webinar on cleaning participant entry and exit survey data to prepare for data submission. On December 15th, we will conduct office hours for evaluators and data submission staff to answer questions they may have about reviewing and submitting survey data. And January 14th, we'll conduct a webinar to explain and demonstrate how to submit performance measures data to the web-based SRAE Performance Measures portal. For additional information about SRAE performance measures, please go to the SRAE Performance Measures website at www.sraepas.com. After you review information on the website, if you have additional questions, you may contact the SRAE Performance Measures Help Desk by emailing SRAE Performance Measures at publicstrategies.com or calling toll-free 833-797-0166. And remember that detailed information about SRAE performance measures for new grantees will be presented on the webinar next month. Now I'll turn the webinar over to Susan Z. to talk about the national evaluation of the SRAE program.
Thank you, Olivia. Welcome, everyone. It's so nice to be here this afternoon and see so many familiar names. Congratulations on your funding. I'm here to talk about the SRAE National Evaluation, which we are conducting in collaboration with Public Strategies. I am Susan Zief, I'm the project director, and Heather Zaveri is the deputy project director, and you will not hear from her today, but you will have plenty of opportunities to learn from her on a component of this project that I will describe briefly. So there are three main activities that the national evaluation is conducting, and I'll be talking about each of them. There's the National Descriptive Study, the Program Components Impact Study, and Data and Evaluation Support for Grantees. But these three activities have very similar themes that are designed to support program improvement efforts. They will all produce action-oriented evidence that you can use to improve your programs. All activities are informed by you, the grantees, experts, and other key stakeholders. And finally, all three of them uphold ACF's evaluation priorities of rigor, relevance, transparency, objectivity, and independence. So first, the National Descriptive Study. This is where we will tell the story of what grantees are doing. If you are a repeat grantee, then you likely participated in the very first phase of the National Descriptive Study, which was the early implementation study. That survey was fielded this summer, and we are in the midst of compiling the results with ACF. Next, we will do a deeper dive into program implementation experiences and lessons learned. So you'll hear a request for additional data collection in 2021. We will also be examining the relationship between program implementation and outputs and outcomes that will be provided through the performance measures that Olivia just discussed. And finally, we'll be able to do in-depth case studies with a small number of grantees to really learn from you. Second is the Program Components Impact Study. And I want to just make sure we're clear on what we mean by program components. These are the essential parts of your program. These are the parts of your program that are credibly vital to achieving the targeted youth outcomes that you achieve to gain. So, for example, it could be the curriculum. It could be the curriculum with maybe supplemental activities such as mentoring or service learning. It could be your facilitators, their experience, their skills, their training, or it could be instructional methods such as how the curriculum is delivered. So that's what we mean by program components. For this study, we will be refining components that the field believes are most critical for the success of all programs. And to get there, we have already met with key stakeholders and program developers and other experts to hear from them about what they think is most critical in delivering an SRAE program successfully. And then we have identified, which I will show in a moment, the component that we think will be most relevant and useful for a broad set of grantees. And then we will begin to evaluate the implementation and outcomes of the components we set out to refine, so that ultimately we can provide all of you with evidence-based strategies you can use to improve your programming. So we are going to take a deep dive on facilitation for the Program Components Impact Study. It represents what we heard strongly and unanimously from everyone we met with as being a very critical component to deliver SRAE programs successfully. Also, while there is a great body of literature on facilitation, there is none within the context of SRAE programs, so we'll be addressing a key knowledge gap. And because this is such a broad topic, there are several research questions that we can undertake, and we can examine various aspects of facilitation. And finally, since this is a core component across every SRAE program, it will yield the greatest benefit to grantees. You may hear from us shortly, because our next step is to reach out to some grantees and ask you what it is about facilitation that makes your program successful, or what you may want to improve. So we hope to talk to you soon. And finally, the third area of the project is data and evaluation support. One way in which this manifests itself is supporting grantees in using data and research to improve their programming. So if you have not been a grantee before, then there are several webinars that we've already provided on this topic, including Introduction to Logic Models and several on continuous quality improvement, including one we recently conducted with 2 grantees who helped us understand how they build a learning environment and a learning culture. And we've also provided webinars on measuring program costs. At the end of this presentation, I'm going to share the National Evaluations website. I encourage you to go there and look at the webinars and the resources we've developed for you under this contract. Shortly, we'll be providing some new webinars on fundamentals of evaluation, and also short videos on collecting high-quality data. And finally, as part of data and evaluation support, we provide evaluation support to you individually should you be interested in or planning to conduct an evaluation, whether it's an implementation evaluation, or whether it's an outcome evaluation, or whether it's an impact evaluation that will compare the outcomes of 2 groups of youth. So if you have if you plan to do an evaluation, if you propose to do one in your application, please be in touch with us, because we can offer you one-on-one support to with your evaluation design, with the measures that you'll use to measure outcomes, with your data collection strategies, and support for analysis and reporting. And finally, here is our project email address, so if you can reach out directly with any questions or need for support that you have at this time. And there's our project website, where you can go get the resources that I spoke of. Thank you, and I will turn things over to Jerry Regier.
My name is Jerry Regier, and I'm with Public Strategies, and we are the contractor for the training and technical assistance for your programming in SRAE. I want to take a minute to introduce our team and also our company. Public Strategy is a high-performing, woman-owned small business based in Oklahoma City, and has a long history of federal contractor experience, and particularly in the training and technical assistance arena. We have been doing this for over 20 years and are experts in building strong linkages between program implementation, research and performance measures, and public policy. The leadership team is a number of people that are here to serve you. Michelle Watson is our project manager. Mary Myrick, Candy Cox, and Beth Clemens are senior advisors to the project. Connie Huber is our project coordinator and our lead and subject matter expert in the area of technical assistance, as well as monitoring. Edel is our task 4 lead, and that's the area that I'll explain in just a minute, is the off-site technical assistance. Kaylee Biddy and Marianne Mozek will head up task 5, which is the topical trainings. And Marianne and myself will be working with the contractor for the annual APP meeting sessions that will take place next May. And then Ashley Simons-Rudolph is our lead for task 7, which creates profiles on all of the grantees that then begin to reside on the website of FYSB. Additional TTA personnel Aslai Israel, Scott Roby, River Cheater. And then we also have a subcontractor, Ascend, and Marianne Mozak, Melissa Walther, and Tracy Pike. I'm sure that you're familiar with some of the people that I've read off, and this is the team that looks forward to working with you. Let me just take a minute to talk about some of the activities that technical assistance provides SRAE grantees. And as I do that, I want to make the point that technical assistance is not something that should be a negative for you. Sometimes we think that grantees think if they ask for technical assistance, it means that they're showing weakness or not showing strength. Nothing could be further from the truth, because we are here to come alongside, to put you in touch with peer grantees that may be having some of the same issues you are, and really to help you go to the next level. So one of the ways we do that is through 2 topical trainings, and this is a peer learning approach and expert engagement. The first training for sure will be virtual, probably sometime in February. And then the individualized TA is something that you can ask for through your project officer. And as you ask for that, then it's entered into the tag system, which is with the exchange, which I'll mention in just a minute again. And then we are contacted to get in touch with you personally. So we have the opportunity then to provide that TA to you through phone, video conference, email, written material, and if we finally get out of this pandemic, face-to-face. The TA workshops for 2 cohorts, new and refunded grantees, and then 35 off-site TA contacts. So we are planning to not only be available to provide you that personal attention for something that you personally need, but also to provide some within the cohorts, you being the new funded grantees, and then there's also the opportunity for doing the same with refunded grantees. And let me also mention that you might be saying, oh, well, I'll look forward to that in the future, and we do look forward to providing both topical trainings and the individualized TA. But also you can access right now much of this technical assistance on the exchange. Each grantee is given credentials to access the exchange, and you'll be hearing about that in the next part of this presentation. But on the exchange, for instance, you can already access both of the topical trainings that were held this past year. One of the trainings was on high quality facilitation. Another was on high performance and how to meet some of the requirements like A through F and how to implement those within your program. So feel free to go to the exchange, have your staff look at the webinars, and you can begin that right now at the beginning of your grant period. And then we have off-site T and TA, 4 series that we're going to be providing throughout the year. And these will include a webinar where we normally would have an expert present some topic sheet on that topic that you can access, and there will be 1 to 3 pages of clear guidance, and then a cluster call on that topic where you can interact with other people that are also in the same boat that you are. We'll be doing some e-updates, some infographics, and working on an e-learning module as well. And again, these are available on the exchange. Site monitoring, we'll be working with FYSB. They take the lead, of course, and the project officers, and we will be letting you know more about that in the coming months. And then finally, the APP conference sessions, which will take place May 11 through 13 next year, 2021. Right now, it's planned for those dates in Atlanta. If it's not able to be held in person, then it will be held virtually, and this is a great opportunity for you. And again, not to sound like a broken record, but again, you can access conference sessions from last year on the Exchange, and those are available to you right now. So we're looking forward to working with you. The Public Strategies team is anxious to meet you if we haven't already. And here's a phone number and also an email. And please be in touch. And now I'd like to turn it over to Owen from the Office of Communications at FYSB. Owen?
Great, thanks, Jerry, and hello, everybody. And Jerry, thank you for doing part of my job for me and talking about the Exchange so much. I appreciate that. I'm going to introduce everybody today to a couple of really great digital destinations that you can leverage in your work and in working with your youth. You might be familiar with them already, especially since Jerry did some of my work for me. The first is called the Exchange, and you'll see the address on the next slide here. The Exchange is actually an online resource repository that houses a wealth of TNPA products, tools, and resources for SRA grantees and other grantees as well. Jerry rattled off a couple of them for me. Matter of fact, there's a great video introducing the site right on the home page with information about the features and functionality of that site. And rather than listening to me talk about it, let's all go ahead and watch that video for a couple of minutes.
Are you an adolescent pregnancy prevention or APP grantee receiving funding from the Family and Youth Services Bureau? Do you want to take your teen pregnancy prevention efforts to the next level, but unsure of where to start? The Exchange is the place for you. 3 years ago, we interviewed APP grantees like you about the types of resources and tools they'd like to see on a website to support their programs. A few months later, we launched the Exchange website, which includes resources, an event calendar, blog, comment wall, and a tool that allows you to customize promotional materials. Have a question about human trafficking? Want to find the recording from a webinar you couldn't attend? On our resources page, you can find what you need quickly by using our format and topic filters. Once you select a topic, hover over the image to see the format types like infographics, webinars, podcasts, and online trainings. Want to share a resource with your colleagues and networks? Just select Share to post to your Facebook or Twitter accounts. As APP grantees, you look at teens' health holistically, their relationships, mental health, substance abuse, and physical health. With our event calendar, you will find upcoming adolescent health observances and how to get your program involved. You'll also find the dates and information for in-person trainings, webinars, and conferences offered to APP grantees. Want to create your own infographics, web badges, and tip sheets on teen pregnancy prevention and other adolescent health topics, but don't have time? The Studio tool is your answer. With the Studio, you can add your organization's logo to materials that have already been fact-checked and approved by the Family and Youth Services Bureau. Within minutes, you'll be able to download and share personalized materials to help increase the visibility and impact of your program. To access the Studio tool and other materials developed exclusively for APP grantees, you need to create an account on the Exchange. If you are the primary point of contact for your grant, then you must register before any other project staff can access exclusive content. Each grant can only have one primary contact. Registering takes less than 5 minutes. Just click Register in the top right corner. Select APP Grantee Point of Contact. Then complete the form with your name, grant number, email address, organization, and funding type. Once your account is approved and you set your password, you can add project staff by going to Account and then My Grants. Just enter their names and email addresses. Then select Invite, and they'll immediately receive an email granting access to the site's exclusive content. We know you are actively focused on helping youth avoid obstacles to success and prepare them for bright futures. Don't waste time searching the web for resources. Visit the Exchange, your one-stop shop for content and features designed to enhance your APP program.
Okay, great. So if you're not registered for the site yet, or if you didn't catch the information on registering at the end there, but first off, don't run off right now and do it. Wait till we're done with the training here, with the orientation here. But you can always go on the homepage of the exchange, and in the upper right-hand corner, you'll find that register. Next slide, please. The second best that I mentioned is the We Think Twice campaign. This campaign is a result of a collaboration between the Administration on Children and Family Youth Services Bureau and the Office of the Secretary of Health. The We Think Twice campaign, along with a number of other related resources, are intended to support grantees' ground-level efforts in working with youth. And on the ground is a good phrase when you think about how this campaign was developed. You'll see the term with youth, for youth here, which truly is how the site was developed. It really was an effort to get input from youth and leverage their ideas and input to create the campaign and campaign components and help promote healthy decisions. Next slide, please. The campaign was initiated on social media, Instagram and Facebook, which are supported by the We Think Twice website. You'll see the web addresses on screen here, along with a couple of our more popular Instagram posts. The We Think Twice website hosts a lot of engaging content for youth. Content such as messages on healthy relationships and avoiding non-marital sexual activity, facts about youth behavior, scientific content about the brain, inspirational and motivational messages, all of that delivered in fun and engaging ways through animated, engaging visuals, infographics, games, quizzes, videos, and more. Next slide, please. I mentioned there are some other resources that have come out of the We Think Twice campaign collaboration, and we'll see a few of them here. These tools are all designed to help individuals and organizations working to support youth in states and communities. And we continue to develop more and more content and resources for the We Think Twice campaign and under this collaboration. So as a final note, I just want to remind everyone about an upcoming webinar that will go into greater detail about the collaborative effort between FYSB and OASH. That webinar takes place on Monday, November 10th from 3 to 4:30. Invitations have actually already gone out, and we encourage everybody who's got them to register, learn more about the campaign, and really leverage that site and the resources in your program. Now, if you didn't receive the email invitation, don't worry. You can ask your project officer to forward it to you, and once you get it, don't forget to register soon. So thanks, everybody. Happy Friday. Our next presenter will be Manolo Salguero with the Office of Grants Management.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Manolo Salguero, and I work in the Office of Grants Management. We are 6 teams that form part of the Office of Grants Management. Our team is the Health Promotion Grants. I would like to mention that David Lee is the second Grants Management Officer, and part of my team is Bernard Morgan and Girman Araya. The Office of Grants Management is responsible for the fiscal management. We ensure that the compliance with the law and regulations, it's always present. We try to be transparent. We try to help all the grantees and the program office at any level, and trying to provide the most current information. Whenever we have requests, amendments, any type of application that you may have to do, we have to do it through the Grants Solutions program that we have. Obviously, we have to have some communication, close communication, I should say, with the grants, with the grantees, obtaining clarification on budget issues, any other particulars in terms of the IDC, that's the indirect cost that we may need, any other information that we may require for the successful application of the terms and conditions of the grant. What is important here is to follow the regulation. We need to have in every single moment present that we are regulated by the CFR, the Code of Federal Regulation, which is the 45 CFR Part 75. That is the requirements for the HHS award. As part of this whole process, it's important to mention that the payment management system, which is the program that the program support services provides, is part of integral of this process of grants management. As grantees, you may know that all the information, all the funding that is channeled through our UFMS system, Grant Solutions, is reflected in the PMS account. Every single grantee should have access to their PMS account. In any moment, in any case, if you need information or support for us to provide access to the PMS, the only thing that you have to do is to contact us, and we should be ready to provide the information that you need. In any case, as you can see in this slide, this is the information that we'll need to contact PMS and their phone number. As many of the grantees, it was mentioned that many of those are repeating grantees. We need to fulfill a couple requirements. One is the standard form 425. That is the federal financial report that has to go to the PMS report. Along with the standard form 425, there is another quarterly report that goes to the PMS. So it's important for you to know that that report is submitted through PMS. We do have, obviously, the project reporting periods that, as you can see, and follow according to the established requirements for the program. There is also another report required, that is the tangible property report, that has to be submitted through the Grant Solution system. As I mentioned before, our backbone system is the Grant Solutions. So in any case you need access or you have any problems, what you need to do is just email to the Grant Solutions team help desk, and they should be able to contact you immediately. And just in case, you can also CC any of the members of our team. Could be David Lee, myself, Bernard Morgan, or Girma Araya. You can contact and CC us, and we should be readily available to you. What is that we need to know and in terms of changes in the program? Whenever there's a change of a scope, there's a change of absence of the program director or the PDPI, which is the program director or program principal investigator, any change of transfer of funds, whenever you need a no-cost extension, in case that you could not be able to complete your prior activities, we can extend the time for you to complete in the next fiscal year. So another significant requirement for change is the budgeting. Whenever there is a significant change in the budget, you need to contact us, and that should be done through an amendment. Unfortunately, we don't have additional funds in this, the need of additional funds. You can do so request, but that will have to go through the regular channels in order to be considered. Here is the most important thing that we need to keep in mind, the budget modifications. Okay, whenever there's a budget modification, you need to submit an amendment. You have to do it through a standard form 424A, send it through the Grant Solutions, and making sure that you attach all the information appropriate for this budget amendment to be considered. We also have carryovers. As I mentioned before, any unobligated balance are funds used to complete unfinished activities from the prior year. So it's important that you know this aspect, because in many cases, and as we are currently see in this pandemic era, we have some unfulfilled and unfinished activities. So you have the possibility to recur to this carryover unobligated balances. Also, remind to you is that you need to have the required documents as listed here in this slide. You have to submit the standard for 424A, submit the detailed line item, and the annual standard form 425. It's important for you to know that this is no-cost extension has to be requested to us 45 days prior to the end of the project period. So we are aware of what is the activity that you need to be helped with, consider what is that you are trying to do, and help you as much as possible to have the funds available to you in the next fiscal year. Again, what you need to do is to include the information that's listed before right here in this slide. The cover letter requesting the no-cost extension, the revised expiration date, the supporting reasons why is that you are requesting this no-cost extension, and obviously the remaining balance that you may have. Finally, I would say what is one of the, even though it's the last point that we have to go through in this process, is one of the most important because we have to close out the grant. And this means that we have gone through all the process of issuing the grant. You have do a good use of those funds, and we have now to reconcile all those accounts and making sure that we can close out without any problem. If there's any issue with that, you should be contacting us as soon as possible so we can help you reconcile in every instance of the process. So that is all I have now, and I'm going to turn it over to Vernay.
Thank you so much, Manolo. That's really essential information that all grantees will need to have. So I would like to offer a few closing remarks as we bring the webinar to an end. First of all, we want to thank you for attending today's webinar. It's quite a lot of information shared, very important information, and we can't repeat it soon enough that the exchange is going to be a very good resource for you. So as you've heard, we've got some really great resources available to ensure your success. Please don't hesitate to take advantage of the technical assistance services that are available to you through our contractor partners. And just a couple of reminders. Your project should begin implementation within 90 days of your receipt of the notice of award. You are, of course, invited to visit websites shown in the presentation today and the following slide, which shows a list of additional websites that provide valuable information that will support your work. Lastly, we would like to remind you of an upcoming deadline. On Monday, October 19th, a COVID survey link was emailed to all grantees. The purpose of the survey is to gather information on how the COVID pandemic has affected the ability of FYSB grantees to complete project activities this fall and to inform FYSB guidance. The survey is a maximum of 16 questions, and it's estimated that grantees will need approximately 15 minutes to complete. Please keep in mind that the survey will close on Monday, November the 2nd. If you have any questions related to this, please contact your project officer. We'd like now to move on to a question and answer session that will give you the opportunity to have any of your immediate questions addressed. Please use the chat function to enter your questions. The Q&A session will be facilitated by Olivia Ashley of Public Strategies. Olivia?
Thank you, Renee. We have two questions so far. The first is about performance measures, so I think I can answer those. The first question is, how often will the performance measures data be made available to grantees? We are developing right now an SRAE performance measures dashboard so that the data that grantees submit to the SRAE performance measures portal every 6 months can be visualized on the dashboard using bar charts and graphics. And we have a webinar that is scheduled in January to introduce that dashboard to grantees. If grantees go to the www.sraepas.com website, you can see our schedule for webinars. We update the website weekly, so as new things get scheduled or things are changed, we make sure those go up in real time. The grantees will submit data every 6 months. So beginning in January, the data that are submitted will be able to be viewed on the dashboard, but then when new data are submitted the next 6 months, they can be viewed again. Grantees will be able to view their own data as well as their sub-awardees' data, and then we will also be analyzing data and publishing annual and periodic reports that will likely be disseminated to grantees as well. A second question that we have, and I think this is for the TTA team, what would be a good way to get a recommendation for a grantee for case management software?
That's a question I'm not sure what the answer would be. Usually with the TTA requests, what is best to start with is talk to your project officer, your federal project officer, and they may have some ideas for you in terms of case management software. And we can certainly, now that the question's been asked, do some research on that ourselves.
Thank you, Jerry. I'm wondering also if the Exchange, which has a comment wall and a blog, might be a great place for grantees to connect with each other and learn from each other about software that they're using that they could recommend.
Hi, this is Labrita White, one of the APP program managers. I also want to interject to that question. It would be great if you could field it with your project officer so that we could gain some additional insight on specifically what type of data management you're looking to have supported by recommended available systems or software, and then we can have our training and technical assistance contractor, depending on the information that you share, do additional research as Jerry stated, or it may be a matter that we would want to address with our performance measurement data collection contractor as well.
Thank you, Labrita. All right, we have several questions for Office of Grants Management. The first is, how do we need to purchase equipment such as computers, conference tables, etc.? So maybe there are questions about what the process should be for making such purchases.
Hello, my name is David Lee. I'm the other grants management officer on the health promotion portfolio. So your question regarding how to purchase equipment such as computer conference tables, just for clarification purposes, equipment is defined as any cost per unit of cost that's greater than $5,000. So in your case, this wouldn't be considered equipment. It would actually be considered supplies or allocated to the other budget cost category. Secondly, what I would need to know is whether these costs were requested in your application as part of the budget narrative. If they weren't, we may need to look at a budget revision amendment that's required to be submitted, or it may not even require prior approval. This is based on the threshold for what we consider a significant budget revision. I hope that answers your questions. If you have any additional follow-up questions, please contact your grants management specialist. And I believe the next question, would you, okay. Do people, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, please go ahead. It sounds like you're seeing them as well.
Okay. Do people we hire need to be approved beforehand? So with that, I would kind of lean towards my program office counterparts. I know that they do look at resumes, and so it may be a good practice to bring that to their attention beforehand.
Thank you, David. And you're correct. I mean, it's great to share with the program office any changes that you are anticipating. Prior approval typically is given related to personnel on your project.
Okay, thank you. The next question is, how will we receive money? Is any money upfront, reimbursement only, and how will it be distributed, whether it be quarterly, annually? So when you were awarded the Notice of Grant Award via Grant Solutions, there were award attachments included, and in those award attachments are payment request instructions. This is handled by PMS, which is a separate entity from ACF. If you have any questions regarding drawdowns, I would recommend you visit the PMS website, which is provided in that award attachment document. And from there, you could find out who your PMS accountant is, and feel free to contact them regarding any questions on drawdowns. And in our case, request for payments is done on an advanced basis. So there's no quarterly, annually, or any frequency of drawdowns. You can do it as needed. What I do want to mention, though, is that once you draw down the funds, they must be dispersed within 3 business days as to avoid any interest being accrued from the funds sitting in your bank account. And then the next question is, can we modify the payroll budget? We may need more teachers. Again, this sounds like a possible budget revision, and with any personnel costs, they need to be run through your program officer, and potentially a budget revision may need to be submitted as an amendment in Grant Solutions. The next question is, how do we have to prove our payroll budget? Do we need timesheets or just through payroll journals based on allocating a percentage of time? So it's important here to follow the general accounting principles, whereas you will be required to maintain timesheets. Now, ACF, we do not ask for timesheets unless a situation arises that require further review, but just for your accounting practices and for your benefit in case of potential audits, you will have to maintain timesheets and proper records for all your personnel. And I believe that covers that group of questions.
David, I think there's another one that might be for Office of Grants Management. What's the dollar limit to move funds on specific line items without written approval, or does everything have to be approved?
Sure. So it's based off of the simplified acquisition threshold, which is currently set at $250,000. If your federal share that you are awarded for this current budget period exceeds the simplified acquisition threshold, then if the cumulative transfers among budget categories is greater than 10%, you will require prior approval. If your award amount, your federal share, is below the simplified acquisition threshold of $250,000, and the cumulative transfer prior approval is only required if the cumulative transfer among budget categories is greater than 25%. And this is also stated on the slides. And so once that gets cleared by the Office of Communications, you will be able to find it there as well. Again, if you have any questions, you could contact your grants management specialist.
Thank you, David. There's a question for FYSB. The Notice of Grant Award requests a submission of updated plans for implementation to include special conditions related to social distancing guidelines. Can you provide any more detailed information about what's expected?
Labrita White, are you available to respond to that question?
Sure. So yes, we did include in the conditions a request for any information relative to the impact of the pandemic on your plan for program implementation, data collection, any components related to your being able to initiate implementation of your projects within the first 90 days, and relative to the plans in your designs for program implementation. And so the documentation that we're looking for, in essence, is relative to, will you be able to serve the intended target population to the extent of the number of youth that were proposed in your application due to COVID-19, the pandemic? Are there any potential interruptions or challenges that you anticipate that will assist us in assisting you with any potential changes to your program or program modification, as David and Manolo have spoken to today, whether or not we need to make a formal amendment to your grant in that regard. We also, as Renee stated, we're in the process of collecting information from grantees through a survey relative to COVID-19 to ascertain what the impact of the pandemic is having on your program design. So hopefully that answer is sufficient.
Thank you, Librita. I see a couple more questions for FYSB. One is it too late to conduct an evaluation outside of the already indicated data collection? We'd like to evaluate and monitor effectiveness of additional community-based activities.
No, it's not too late. Please reach out to your project officer with information relative to what you'd like to propose as far as additional data collection and or evaluation efforts. As Susan Z shared in her presentation today, working with our C-SRAE national evaluation, there are many components to evaluation that we're interested in having even the more grantees participate in. So we're delighted that you have that interest. Please share that interest with your project officer, and we will connect you with the appropriate evaluation TA provider to help figure out next steps. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Librita. So we have another question. If a grantee's project officer was not listed on the list of FYSB staff, will grantees who are in that situation receive some information soon about their project officer assignment?
Yes, most definitely. And if you have a need immediately to receive further information, please reach out to myself or to Librita White. We can make sure that the program officer or project officer gets with you immediately. Thank you.
Thank you. A couple of questions for Office of Grant Management. Grantees are asking how they can contact Manolo, or is there a reason they need to talk with Manolo directly?
To share my email address. So, but in any case, I can put my email again in the chat for everybody to see it.
Wonderful. And I think David was talking about and answered one of the questions, and one of the grantees asked, could he or you repeat the part he was talking about regarding interest?
Hello. So the question was about repeating the remarks I made about how your account cannot hold funds for more than 3 business days as to avoid any interest being accrued or potentially not dispersing the funds in a timely manner. Yeah, so our policy states that once you draw down the funds, they must be dispersed within 3 business days. So with that in mind, as you have these costs that you're about to incur, you should know beforehand and should submit the drawdown request at that time.
Thank you.
If I may add to that, it's called the Cash Management Improvement Act that we go by. So that's why we have to make sure that the transfer of funds from the agency awarding the funds are going to the states, territories, or all the grantees. It has to be transparent and it has to be spend it in time, as David mentioned before, within 3 days.
Okay. 2 more questions for Office of Grants Management. Do grantees need a dedicated bank account for these funds since they need to show spent funds within 3 days?
Hi, this is David. That's a question better served to be answered by your PMS accountant.
Excellent. Thank you. And also for Office of Grants Management, are consulting vendors required to submit timesheets or invoices?
So to answer that question, they are not required to submit timesheets or invoices to ACF. but I want to just point out that it's imperative for these grantee organizations that may be acting as an intermediary or overseeing these contracts to maintain a record of all their vendors and contractors.
Thank you. I see two questions for FYSB. One is there a way to edit responses on the COVID survey that has already been submitted? Is there a way to amend those answers that have been submitted?
Labrita, I think you're most familiar with the COVID survey.
My recommendation in that case, if you've already submitted your survey but you want to make edits, please reach out to your assigned project officer or to myself or Renee. I've entered our email addresses into the chat for this webinar, and we will be in contact with the lead staff and contractor to determine next steps for having updated information submitted. Thank you.
Thank you, Labrita. Another question for FYSB. Do grantees need to get their local impact evaluation pre- and post-surveys approved by their project officers?
So they should be submitted to their project officers, and we work in tandem with the contractor to review and provide feedback to individual grantees.
Great, thank you. I think we have a question also for the SRAE evaluation TTA group. Would it be possible for the SRAE evaluation contractor to recommend maybe some sample items and measures for pre- and post-surveys for grantees?
Great. Olivia, you'd like me to take that?
That would be great.
Yep, absolutely. We're very happy to work with you to identify measures that are well aligned with your program and its logic model. So please do reach out I will put our email address in the chat. And I also just wanted to note that I see that Christine Zakor also put the email address for the questions related to the COVID survey, which Mathematica is also fielding in the chat as well. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unless I'm missing something, I think we've hit all the questions that have been submitted so far. There are a lot of comments saying thank you, and this information was very helpful. So thank you to all of the presenters for the information and also for the answers to questions.
Great. Thank you so much, Olivia. That was very, very helpful. And to all of our presenters and helping to answer those questions. So this concludes our webinar for today. Thank you so much for your attention, and we hope that this has been a helpful orientation to the many aspects of the APP program. Also, just as a note, this webinar has been recorded, and it will be available along with the PowerPoint presentation on the Exchange website. And with that, I'd like to say happy Friday. And again, thanks so much. Reach out to your project officer if you have any more questions. Have a good afternoon.